Welcome, everybody, to Into the Fire. We're coming to you live from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Today's date is January the 10th of 2025. I actually said 2015 last week. It's 2025. I cannot believe that I remember when 2000 hit and I was out on the streets working that night and everybody thought the world was going to come to an end. So I can't believe we're already a quarter of the way through the century. But tonight's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a really exceptional guest. I'm looking forward to that. My heart goes out to everybody in Southern California. My gosh, I cannot even imagine what that's like. And I'm kind of from that area. And I'd actually made a little bit of a comment about the mayor, and I had two people that kind of were roasting me on Twitter, and I promptly told them I lived there. I grew up there. I have the right to speak if I choose to. So I think that's horrible what's going on out there. And I don't know. It's just crazy. Anyway, it's going to be a good episode tonight. I'm very excited. And yes, I see that the crew is here, all the regulars from Phyllis to Jackie, just really everybody that is the week in and week out people. They're here, and I love to see you here. So thank you for that. And hello, everybody. So really, hopefully everybody's New Year's going great. And I'm trying to think of what else I was going to talk about. Just kind of escaped me. We've got some great guests that are going to be coming up, not just tonight, but over the next month. I mean, there's going to be some exceptional guests. I'm not even going to say who they are because you're just going to have to watch for the advertisements. But I'll tell you this much: one of them is probably he's probably in the top 5 most well-known sheriffs in the country. And then there's somebody else. I'm not going to mention who he is, but he's probably the number 1 authority when it comes to the Manson murders. The guy's just incredible. And I'm just trying to iron out the date for him. And it's going to be awesome. So I'm going to get right to this young lady because she's just an amazing person. And you talk about a bright star in the world of law enforcement. She definitely is one of those people, and she hasn't been a police officer for terribly too long. She's coming up on 8 years, but in her 8 years, let me tell you something. She's somebody that's walking the walk and not just talking the talk. You know, she's really, really making a huge impact. Her name is Bianca Becker, and she's a detective and therapy canine handler with the University of Central Florida Police Department, where she strives to serve and protect the students, faculty, staff, and visitors of UCF. After obtaining her undergraduate degree from the University of Central Florida in 2017, she was hired by the UCF Police Department, where she served the agency and community in various capacities and specialty units such as the Honor Guard, Emergency Response Team, and the mentorship program for young officers. That's cool. I don't know about that. I'm going to have to ask her about that because that sounds interesting. Currently, Detective Becker is assigned to the Criminal Investigations Division, where she spends most of her time dedicated to the investigation of sex crimes and victim advocacy with her canine partner, Luna. Show Luna or maybe you're showing her. I don't know because I can't see that page right now. But Detective Becker is a FDLE, which is Florida Department of Law Enforcement certified instructor, and has presented case studies for international conferences and advanced training courses such as adult sex crimes investigations and advanced interviews and interrogations. She regularly works with and is a member of the Sexual Assault Response Team and the Internet Crimes Against Children, also known as ICAC, task force. That's a tough job. That is a tough job right there. In 2023, Detective Becker launched the Start by Believing campaign at UCF to ensure every officer at UCFPD is equipped to respond appropriately to sexual assault cases. What a novel idea that is. Actually training the people that are out on the streets as to how to respond to these, because you don't respond to all of these things the exact same way. So that's great. And know how to best survive. I'm sorry. She's equipped to respond appropriately to sexual assault cases and know how to best support survivors. In 2021, Detective Becker, recognized by the UCF Young Alumni Association and a recipient of the 30 Under 30 Award. And in 2020, Detective Becker was awarded Officer of the Year by the UCF Police Department, as well as the Chief's Diversity and Inclusion Award. And her exemplary performance is contributing to the university community. Detective Becker was also recognized as the Driving Under the Influence Rookie Officer of the Year in 2018 by Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, Florida chapter, and for her relentless fight to keep students safe from impaired driving. And I mean, talk about decorated. She's got almost as many. She's got more impressive awards than I've ever gotten, and I've been doing this thing. I've been a cop forever. All right, let's bring out Bianca.
Hey, Jason.
How are you, young lady?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I gotta give props to Rick Salcido, who is her partner in crime. And Rick, I've known Rick since probably going back to 2017, and he and I have spoken at a few different locations like Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. And those are the three places that I can remember. And maybe one day he and I will be back. We just got to get him on the show. That's what we need to do. And but anyway, welcome. I really do appreciate it, and I mean everything that I say. You are one impressive young lady, and I'd like to know, first off, what interested you to become a police officer to begin with?
I actually got into police work because I knew that I wanted to work sex crimes. So I was a student here at UCF before that they hired me with the police department. So around the time that I was getting ready to graduate, I knew kind of where I wanted to go, but wasn't 100% sure of where I wanted to end up. I knew I really wanted to work sex crimes. I always say if you ask 100 different officers why they wanted to be a cop, they'd have 100 different answers, whether it's drugs, going undercover. For me, it was I really wanted to work sex crimes. And so I actually met a UCF police officer a couple of months before I was set to graduate, and he gave me a tour of the department, and I met Rick Salcido on my tour. And after talking to him, I was trying to decide between a couple of different agencies, but after talking to him, UCF got bumped up my list, and I said, this is who I want to work with. So after they hired me, they sponsored me, they sent me through police academy. And then right after I graduated from a police academy and was sworn in, I did, a couple years on night shift patrol, which, the DUIs came in and everything. But from there, I started working with Rick, and he started cross-training me while I was still on patrol and started giving me some of his old cases, walking me through them, having me start, thinking and investigating and things like that. And then once a spot opened up in CID, he said, this is who I want to work with. And we've been partners ever since. It's been about four and a half years. And working with Rick has been, absolutely, he's my mentor, my partner. We've done everything together, and he's been great to work with.
No, he's awesome. He retired from the Orlando Police Department, and one of the things that he was kind of involved with back then was the Pulse nightclub shooting, which is one of the biggest mass shooting events that have occurred in this country. So, and Orlando, and now UCF is located in Orlando. Is that correct? They probably have campuses throughout. Okay,
we do. We actually have a downtown campus that was right next to Pulse nightclub. It wasn't open at the time of Pulse, and UCF is about 20 minutes from where Pulse is.
Okay. What year did that happen? Were you a cop when that took place?
No, I was in my senior year of college. I think that was in 2016.
Okay.
2016, maybe 2017, around there.
The UCF Police Department is basically colleges are like cities, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they may not have I don't know. I mean, they may not have a grocery store located on them, but they've got a ton of people. What's the amount of students that are actually living on the campus?
So UCF is actually one of the largest universities in the country. We usually ping pong back and forth between 1, 2, and 3, depending on each year. We have anywhere from 68,000 to 72,000 students enrolled at UCF every single year. And we have, of those, about 12,000 live on campus. But in terms of numbers, we are, like I said, one of the largest universities in the country.
And what comes with that is crime. I mean, you're going to have that many people in any given place. You're going to have crimes from murder all the way down to somebody breaking into somebody's dorm room, I'm sure. So you have to be prepared for anything. And being in the criminal investigations division that you are in, that you guys, I mean, of course, you primarily are dealing with sex crimes, if I'm not mistaken. But let's say they have a murder on campus. I mean, are you going to be involved in that investigation to some extent as well?
If we have a murder on campus, it's going to be all hands on deck for us. So we have all of our detectives are actually general detectives. And when the sex crimes come in, they get assigned to me and or Rick. But any time that our numbers are low on that, we're all pitching in on everything else. And so, if we have something like a murder, everyone's going to be called out. Everyone's going to be working it.
And you'd also told me, we'd talked to you previously, and you'd mentioned something about the fact that there's three jurisdictions or two jurisdictions that kind of come around with you? Who are the other agencies that you have to work with?
So UCF is right on the edge of Orange County. And so we're our own jurisdiction. Then on one side, we have Orange County Sheriff's Office. And on the other side, we have the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. But next to them is the Oviedo Police Department. So depending on where in Seminole it happened, it's either Seminoles or Oviedo's. But on the flip side of that, Orange County Sheriff's Office also doesn't do traffic stops. So if something happens in the roadway, it's going to be Florida Highway Patrol. So we deal with all of these different jurisdictions all the time. And then we also have a downtown campus that sits right in the middle of Orlando Police Department's jurisdiction. So something happens over there, we're dealing with OPD, or something happens over here, we could be dealing with 3 or 4 different jurisdictions at a time.
Okay. So how many different campuses are there? I mean, are there other ones throughout the state of Florida?
There are. I know we have a couple of other ones. I think we have one in Daytona that doesn't fully fall under us except for the Clery Act purposes. But in terms of what we staff, we have our main campus, we have a medical school, a college of hospitality, and our downtown campus as well. So.
Which is really interesting to me. So, and you go all over the state because of this therapy dog, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So you wanted to be a sex crimes detective. You've been able to do that. One of the things that I your bio that was really interesting is the Start by Beginning campaign. What is that?
Start by Believing. So,
Start by Believing. I'm sorry.
Start by Believing is it was actually started by a nonprofit organization called EVAWI. It stands for End Violence Against Women International. And basically EVAWI came about because it was an officer in California, I believe, who was working the job and realized that officers respond differently to rape calls than they do anything else. So for example, if we get dispatched to a robbery call, before we're even putting the car in drive and heading over there, we're already thinking, is our suspect at large? Do we need a perimeter? What kind of evidence do we have? Are there officer safety concerns? Do I need X, Y, or Z? How many other officers do I need? And before you're driving over there, you're already game planning. But a lot of times whenever we respond to a rape call, is this a consent issue? What else is going on here? Is this revenge? What else is going on? And so they started EVAWI as a way to start training law enforcement. And they actually work with state attorneys, SANE nurses, anyone under the umbrella of sexual assault, I think victim advocates as well. And they just provide training and resources and kind of a community so we can all get together and information share and do better. So Start by Believing isn't we're never going to be biased toward the victim over the suspect, because at the end of the day, we still need to be objective. But the reality is whenever it comes to rape calls, historically, we haven't been objective. So Start by Believing doesn't mean that we blindly believe the victim throughout the entire case. No, it just means that I'm going to walk into the interview, I'm going to start by believing, and then of course I'm going to follow the evidence, the investigation, wherever it leads me. But I'm not going to discredit that victim before I've even laid eyes on them or heard their story.
Right, and that's good. And I think I'm a little bit familiar with that organization. I think I've tried to speak with one of their conferences. They have conferences throughout the country, right? Yeah,
they do.
So,
and their conference, Rick calls it the Super Bowl of sex crimes. It's the biggest training conference that you can do in this field.
Really? All right. Well, then I'll have to try a little harder to try to make that happen. So you said you're an international speaker. So I noticed that you had a photo of you with the dog, or with the dog was up in Virginia. I think it was Virginia.
Yeah.
And so you take the dog with you. What is it like, just to let the audience know? And by the way, let us know where you're from. All the people that are tuning in right now. I want her to know that you guys are from all over the place. So feel free to drop down where you're watching from. We would appreciate it. But so. I think I just lost my train of thought, but you speak all over the place. And so you've went outside of the country a little bit?
So not to speak outside of the country, the conferences have been international conferences just here in the U.S.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. But Rick and I have a presentation that we put together. It's kind of cool. We called it Old School versus New School, because Rick had over 20 years at the Orlando Police Department, and then he's been at UCF longer than I have, and I've been here for 8 years. So, I mean, he's just a wealth of knowledge, but he did most of his career working sex crimes. And the reality is the training that comes out, like I said, the training that comes out with these kinds of cases just tends to be very limited. I went to Police Academy in 2017, so it wasn't too long ago in the grand scheme of things. But when I was in Police Academy, we had all of this training on suspect interviewing, anything high liability, tactics, you name it, everything under the sun. But we didn't do anything under victim interviewing. I think maybe we talked about it one day, but it wasn't very in depth. And what we did had absolutely nothing to do with how to interview a victim of a traumatic event. And so it's extremely limited. So Rick and I put together old school versus new school. And basically we take a case study where it's a great officer, but he uses very old school tactics to interview our victim, who was absolutely, traumatized. It was a horrible case. And so we go through that old school style interview, and then we talk about new science and new research and different ways to interview victim, which ultimately it just helps you build a stronger case. And so you're getting better information out of the victim. So it benefits the detective and it gives the victim a better experience also.
What is it about those interviews that are really kind of conducted different than, this is a huge question, but I mean, how are those different than, like, let's say I go in there and to talk to a killer? I mean, is there... For
victim interviewing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about, because victims specifically to that type of a crime, is it there's a different approach, or I can tell you what, I just got called in on a murder yesterday, and the lady that I was talking to was the wife, and I don't know that she really liked me much, but it was kind of like, I was kind of like a little suspicious of some of the things that she was saying. So I was kind of confronting her on a few things, and it turned out, actually, I got to say this because this is kind of funny, but it turned out when the killer, we got the killer, and he came down, and this kid was probably about the most forthcoming, truthful kid ever. And this guy is like 18 years old, just completely ruined the rest of his life. But turns out she was telling the truth. But I was like, no, there's got to be more to this story, ma'am. I'm sorry. But so is it a little bit more of a softer approach with the victim to get them at ease?
It is. And you have to read it. But the reality is that whenever we go in to interview a victim, it's such a personal crime too. And a lot of times when we go to interview them, they're still processing and understanding what happened. But whenever somebody is a victim in a rape, or anything similar that's going to be equally traumatizing, the reality is our brain starts releasing all of these hormones. And, we call them negative hormones, but the reality is they just keep us alive throughout the interview. So it's what kicks off, our adrenaline, which gets us through. People call it fight or flight. We actually don't call it that anymore. But, it's what gets us to survive the event. So these hormones are good, but the downside is they also affect our memory, how our memory is stored both short-term and long-term. So it also, it affects all sorts of different things in our body. Our heartbeat, our brain, we're not able to rationalize everything, so as everything gets affected, they're trying to process what happened to them. So they might be truthful in telling us what happened, but they don't remember, did this happen before that happened? Or I did this, but I can't remember why I did this. Or I ended up doing this, but oh wait, that happened first, because they're trying to piece it together because of these hormones that are released in our brain. So the idea is, whenever we go in there and talk to them, it's anything that we can do to get the victim to feel more comfortable. That way they open up, they can relax, and they can give us better quality of information. So that's when Luna comes in. So as our brain starts kicking into overdrive to get us to survive this event, like I said, all of these hormones are released. But on the flip side, when dog people interact with the dog, they start releasing very positive hormones. It's actually the same hormone that a mother releases when she's breastfeeding her newborn child. So the idea is, if we can bring in a dog, they'll start petting the dog, their brain's going to start releasing positive hormones, and all of a sudden that's going to start leveling out what's going on in their brain. So it helps them, like I said, feel more comfortable, feel more relaxed, and then they're able to give us a better quality of information.
Yeah. See, that's good. And that's what we're going to jump into. I really want to know. And by the way, somebody said that I needed to start by believing. the people. Hey, listen, I do. That is my kryptonite. And if you've watched me on TV all these years, you'll see me many times walking out of the room going, I really like that person. And then somebody going, yeah, bro, they're lying to you. Mm-hmm. That's my problem. I want to believe people. So let's talk about this dog, because when we had spoke before, you told me that this is really, it's probably not you've done some research to try to locate other departments that are kind of doing what you're doing. How did this program come about to where you have this dog? Because you go all over the state to when people are testifying. So talk about how this thing started, who proposed it, and how you got involved in this specifically.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite things to talk about. So this is right up my alley. So the UCF actually has another therapy dog. He is, I think, 5 or 6 years old. He's a yellow lab, and his name is Chipper. And he's been incredible for us. He's been very successful for us. And, you know, we use him on cases. We use him on community outreach. But there was one day where I was sitting in our sexual assault response team meeting. And basically, the sexual assault response team, we call it SART. It's a meeting made up of all different jurisdictions within our county. They send detectives from all over to it, and we information share it. State attorney, prosecutors from the state attorney's office go, victim advocates go, anyone who has anything under to do with the umbrella of sexual assault attend these meetings. We information share. We talk about trends that are going on. We learn from each other. If someone has something crazy, we can talk about it. And one day I was sitting in this meeting and I was looking around, and all of these agencies had therapy dogs, but nobody assigned to this team had a therapy dog. And so there's definitely a benefit there. I know some of the other agencies around us did have therapy dogs, but it was, from what I understand, hard for them to make the appointment to get the dog because the dog has so many outreach and other things going on. And so there was an immediate need there and a benefit to the community. But on the flip side of that, Rick and I had sat down in 2023 and we started looking at UCF stats. And we know that sexual assault is the #1 most underreported crime across the country. And then there's a different set of statistics for college campuses. Well, UCF, like I said, is one of the largest universities in the country. So we should have been blowing these statistics out of the water, but we weren't. So we knew that there was a lot of our demographic that they just weren't coming in and reporting to us. So we put our heads together, we started brainstorming, and we said, what can we start doing to change within our communities? That way our students feel comfortable coming in and reporting to us. So the very first thing that we came up with was a Start by Believing campaign from Avawi. That's something that Rick was actually teaching all of our officers to do already, but our students didn't know that. So we put together all sorts of community outreach. We got out face-to-face with our students, our faculty, and our staff as well. And we just started getting the word out there that all of our officers are trauma-informed. All of our officers have been trained on how to conduct a victim-centered interview, especially whenever it comes to sexual assault. And we just hit the ground running on that. And that went all the way up the flagpole. Our chief of police is so supportive. He actually met with the university president, and they pitched a proclamation that was signed university-wide that UCF is a Start by Believing university. And we were very proud of that. But the second thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to add another therapy dog to our program specific to sexual assault. And so that's how Luna came up. So I spoke with our canine trainer who, she helped pair me with Luna. Luna was actually 3.5 months old at the time. But even as a puppy, she was always very calm. So what you see now, I was laughing, someone in the comments said Luna's out cold. She is. And this was her as a 3.5-month-old puppy too. As soon as you picked her up, she fell asleep, which is perfect, what we want for therapy world. So I put together a pitch, a proposal, broke down the budget for our chief of police. Luna came to the presentation. She sat in Chief's lap and pretty much did this the entire time. And we talked to him about the SART team. We talked to him about the benefit. We talked to him about the fact that, Rick and I were traveling now to start presenting and teaching other agencies how to conduct these types of investigations and saying, we could bring the dog too. And this is just one more drop in the bucket that we can do to spread some good. And so our chief was incredible. He was so supportive. Our deputy chief was equally incredible. All of our command staff, my supervisor at the time, everyone saw the vision and they backed it. And, I have a lot of friends with other agencies that I know that I know how lucky we are to have that kind of a support here. And so that was in May of 2023, I believe, and Luna's been with us ever since. And so
yeah, I think it's amazing. I really do. And you can't beat that dog. I mean, it's just a good looking dog.
Yeah.
But I think that's really, golly, how come we haven't been doing this for like decades? I mean, really. I mean,
the science is just catching up now. So
okay. Because it's one of those things that makes such great sense. And so you will go to the court throughout the state of Florida, if an agency, I mean, it's not just sex crimes. I mean, you could go if you had a kid that was maybe witnessed a murder. I mean, theoretically, I would think that have you done anything like that, or?
No, it's mostly been just sex crimes. So we have, like I said, with the SART team, all our prosecutors are there as well, which is great because anytime that we have a case, we can call up the prosecutors, we can talk to them. We already have that relationship through the SART team. And so when I was getting ready to pitch Luna, I reached out to a lot of different agencies that didn't have a therapy dog. I reached out to the child protection team and to the state attorney's office and said, look, we have this idea. We're pitching it at UCF. If we brought this dog on, do you think you would use it? Is this something that you think, you would benefit from? And all of them thought it was a great idea. And so because of that, I got Luna, and within a month, the state attorney's office was asking for her. So anytime that they have a child that was a sexual assault victim that now has to testify in court against their abuser, Luna can come. So they'll give us a call and say, hey, we have a kid, or we have 2 or 3 kids in this case, is Luna available? Can you bring her by? And so if it's a deposition, if it's just meeting with their prosecutor for the first time to talk about their case, or if it's for trial, Luna can go, she'll meet with them. And she's had several successful deployments with our state attorney's office and young kids. I mean, it's heartbreaking to hear their stories, but seeing the benefit that it brings them, I mean, I knew it would make a good difference, but I didn't realize just how impactful it would be to have a dog until really that first deployment that I had with a child survivor. And so it's incredible to see firsthand. I mean, I think it was one of the first ones that she did. They actually weren't going to use this initially, but when they went to swear the child in, I think she was 9 or 10 years old at the time that she was testifying. So she was even younger when her case came up. But they went to swear her in, and right after she swore in, she broke down and started sobbing. And so they had to take a recess. So the victim advocate that was assigned to her called me and said, hey, I'm sorry, I know it's short notice, but can you get Luna here? We have a kid that's really struggling and has to testify later today. So we brought Luna, and Luna sat with her for about 2 hours. And when I first got there, the girl was quiet. She wouldn't talk. She wouldn't even look at me. She wasn't even really into Luna at first. So, I was thinking it was going to be a bust. And after a little bit of time, then she started petting Luna. Then she started holding Luna. Then, we pulled out some dog toys. Now she's playing with the dog. And after about 2 hours, she was laughing, talking to us about school, asking us questions about what to expect in trial. And she was like she was like a kid again. And so seeing that transformation in just a couple of hours was the first time that it opened my eyes to it, that, wow, we've really got something here.
And so you said that you did some research throughout the country, and you really just didn't find many agencies. What other agencies do you know of? I mean, are you guys pretty much cornered the market on this?
It's hard to tell because there's really no database to find this. I know there are a lot of other agencies that have therapy dogs, but finding an agency that has a therapy dog that's dedicated to sex crimes, that's part of the, I know they've got to be out there. I just don't know who they are. But other agencies, like I said, we had a therapy dog before Luna. We still have him, and he's great, and he does, everything under the sun. And he's an incredible therapy dog too. But like I said, just no one in our area. I couldn't find anyone that has a therapy dog that's dedicated to sexual assault.
Yeah, and just for the listeners, dogs are a huge part of law enforcement. We've had dogs that track people, of course. You've seen the old movies where they've got bloodhounds that are tracking escaped convicts and stuff. But we don't, on our police department, we don't have bloodhounds. We've got dogs that will bite you, and that's German Shepherds, or I think what are they called? Malamutes? What are they called?
Malinois.
Yeah, that's right. So those are the types of dogs that we have, and those are generally they can smell drugs, they can find people, and then you have a different type of dog that is explosive dogs. You'll see those a lot of times. You'll see those kind of dogs at the airports. That's where they go and do their work. And then you have another type of dog that I just actually used yesterday, and that is a dog that is trained to find guns or ammo, like cartridge casings that have been fired and stuff. And these things are so amazing. They're usually through the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, that they're the ones that get those dogs trained. And those dogs could literally find a cartridge casing in a football field. They're amazing. I've seen nothing but great things. And then now we're diving into this, and I think this is really good. So there was another thing you'd mentioned to me too that I want to. There's rules with this dog specifically when you go to court. What is that?
There's rules for everything. So whenever we go to court, you can't just bring in the therapy dog, because ultimately that could be used to sway the jury, or it might push them one way or another. So the jury isn't supposed to, now this might be different in different areas of the country, but where we are, the jury's not supposed to know that there's a therapy dog there. So the prosecutor has to motion to the judge for permission to use the dog, and the jury's not supposed to see them. So if they do have a dog, the dog can't be seen. They have to be under the stand, or hidden in some way, so that way the jury can't be influenced by the fact that there's a dog there. And so that was part of the reason why I wanted to pitch a small dog, was because all the other therapy dogs I was seeing, they were all huge. Like I said, our other one's a lab. I've seen poodle mixes and all sorts of big dogs, retrievers, things like that. But I really haven't seen small dogs with other agencies. I think one other agency in the area, I think, just got a Frenchie too. So it's nice to add another one. But this is really new. But I think this is where the future is going to be going. And it's just so much easier. I can pick her up. I can go. She does this. She sleeps in their lap. I mean, it's super easy. And they're less alarming too. There are people that just don't like big dogs. They do better with small dogs, or, kids tend to like smaller dogs too. And so I think that this is really new, but I think in the next 10, 20 years, this is going to start being the standard in what we see.
Yeah, and I think it will, the more and more the word gets out on this. And I think that type of dog is actually, does that dog ever, how many hours of sleep does that thing get in a day?
Probably around 18 or 20 hours a day. She gets a burst of energy for about 15, 20 minutes, and then she needs a 4-hour nap afterwards. So. Okay.
Nice. All right. So we've seen that you do teaching. You're certainly available for teaching throughout the country and so forth. So if you're there's law enforcement agencies that listen to us from California to Virginia to North Carolina, all over the place. And so there's people with those agencies and so forth. And so this is something to consider. I think that it makes a lot of sense. And that's the thing I like about things like this, is that it does make sense. And so how prevalent is rape and sex crimes in general and I know that UCF doesn't want to go, oh yeah, hey, we've got rape going on here. I know better, but it's going on every college campus. It's not like it's a big secret. It goes on everywhere. And so, especially at college campuses, because you got young people. But as far as, and I'm sure that the number one, it's probably more date rape kind of stuff. It's not really stranger rapes, although you have those too, I'm sure, right?
So as far as how often it happens here, like I said earlier, we know that rape and sexual assault are the number one most underreported crimes across the country. And then especially whenever it comes to college campuses. So whenever it comes to these statistics, they have a breakdown of just general population, and then they have a separate breakdown of 18 to 25. And the statistics are absolutely crazy. Whenever you sit down and you start reading and start, going through the history of all of it. I'm a total nerd, so I love reading about it, learning about it. But like I said before, we knew that it was underreported. And it still is. We know that it's happening here, and we know that there are a lot of people that don't feel comfortable coming in reporting it, or they're still processing it, or we're getting delayed reports. But I love your dog too. But
this is my therapy dog.
I love it.
Yeah.
But we know that there's more out there that we're not getting, and so that's been the constant struggle. And one of the biggest issues that we have at a university is you got to think. 2 years ago, we launched Start by Believing. We did all of this community outreach. We keep that going throughout the year, but every single year we're losing about 25% of our population. So we're always starting from zero, trying to, meet with students, meet with new faculty members. It's different from a city where you can kind of build and earn trust and build relationships, because every couple of years we're replacing our population almost 100%. So, our numbers, we know that the numbers are low. So we're constantly trying to do things to get people to come in and feel comfortable coming in and reporting. So.
Yeah. And what is the reason? I mean, this is probably a stupid question, but why is that so underreported? I would think that people would want to report, things like that.
It's just different. If like I was saying before, if you tell someone that you were robbed immediately, I was robbed at gunpoint, they don't say, but what were you doing? Were you really robbed, or did you just feel like you were robbed? And it starts from the first person that they tell. So anytime that someone is victimized, the first person that they tell, we call the outcry witness. That's the very first person that they tell about the crime. So how that outcry witness responds, if they blow it off or belittle it, or, that victim tends to hold on to it. That's where we get a lot of our delayed reports coming in. And then on top of that, it's they're worried that they're going to be blamed. They're worried that, maybe they didn't make the best choices going in for it. So now it's going to be put back on them. Like I said before, there was a lack of training in law enforcement. And I don't knock any officers that mishandled a rape before, because like I said, the training just wasn't there. Cops were taught, whenever you take a report, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And so The reality is, whenever you're doing a sexual assault interview, it shouldn't be like that. You have to sit down. You have to build rapport with the victim. You have to make them feel comfortable enough to open up to you. Otherwise, you're not getting the full story. You have to understand that, like I said, because of those hormones that kick off in their brain, their story is going to be fragmented. It's not going to be chronologically told, perfect. There's all sorts of different factors there. And so people just weren't believing victims. Victims weren't comfortable coming forward. And, I think all of that, after years and years and years, compounded and led us to where we are now. And now, it drives me crazy because we have all this training. We're trying to make all of this change, but it feels like every Netflix special or podcast that comes out is talking about how, this victim wasn't believed, or this victim was arrested for false reporting when it ended up being true. And so there's all this stuff that we're up against before we walk in the room. So, anytime that I meet with someone, it's about getting them to calm down enough and relax enough to fully open up.
And I think it bears mentioning a little bit is that there is a lot of false reporting with respect to this crime type in it as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've heard. I don't want to butcher the statistics, but I've heard. Well, what is it? I'll tell you what I've heard, but I want to hear what you're going to say first.
I'm sorry. Were you asking about false reporting or underreporting?
Yeah, no, false reporting.
Okay. I'm sorry. I heard underreporting. So.
Well, no, I did ask that originally. Okay. I was curious as to why they didn't. Why there's a lot of underreporting.
So,
but as far as false reporting, that does happen on occasion too.
It happens. Of course it happens, but it doesn't happen as often as people think that it does. And if you start, that's another thing, that if you start reading about it and looking at the statistics, the false reporting is actually much lower than people tend to assume that it is. In most of the cases, all the cases that I've worked in the almost 4.5 years that I've been doing this, very, very, very few of them have been true false reports. One of the issues that we're up against on a college campus, and you got to think, we're going to get this before the other departments start getting this, but I'm sure it's coming, is the schools are actually teaching a different definition of consent, at least here in Florida. So schools are actually teaching from middle school, high school, and I believe colleges too are teaching what's called affirmative consent, which basically means that every single step of the way, you have to ask, can I kiss you? And the other person has to give what's called an enthusiastic yes, because if they just nod their head or say yes, but it's not enthusiastic, it doesn't count. So the other person has to give an enthusiastic yes, and then they have to ask, can I kiss you? Yes. And then, every time that it progresses, can I touch you? Yes. Okay. Can I have sex with you? Yes. And the reality is that it's never going to be that way whenever it comes down to, people having sex. So,
right.
So we've had very few false reports. What we have had are students that come in and they're told, because they talk to their friend about, whatever happened, and the friend says, you were raped. They didn't, that meets the criteria for rape. Or they teach, if you've had any alcohol at all, it's rape, and it's not. So what we get are a lot of students that come in and they're not even trying to report to us. They're trying to give us information of, hey, we just want you to be aware that this happened, or maybe we want you to talk to this other student because it's not right or whatever. But they're not intending to false report. But anyway, so our false reporting numbers are very, very low. What we have is a misinformed population of what consent actually is. And we're not doing them any services teaching them this affirmative consent, but that seems to be what's taken off in the school systems. So that's been a majority of what we've dealt with. But in terms of people that are actually coming in to false report and potentially ruin someone else's life, we have very, very, very few of those that I've worked.
Okay, that's good. And actually, this is a crime that I would think that in a lot of instances, it's going to be based on what they say. I mean, really. I mean, I'm sure you're looking for physical injuries and so forth if somebody I'm guessing. This is out of my area.
This is where they came up with he said versus a she said, because there's never cameras, there's almost never witnesses, there's almost never anything. And then usually you can take them for the forensic exam or the rape kit, but they're not denying that the sex happened, so the DNA is going to be there. They're just talking about how the DNA got there. Was it consensual or not? And so a lot of times it's great to have DNA, but a lot of times the suspect isn't denying that he had sex. A lot of times they're just denying that it was consensual or not. So. Yeah.
And also real quick, what is the time frame that you can actually get a rape exam? Is there a period of time that they have to get it?
120 hours or 5 days. So that's how long the DNA can live on the body. But of course, if they've showered, the likelihood that we're going to get anything is going to go down. A lot of times if they eat or drink, that's going to, hurt our evidence, things like that. Have they gone to the bathroom, things like that. But they'll do the exam up to 120 hours after the incident.
All right. Well, I think that, you were talking about, it's really important. The number one tool for us in law enforcement, whether you work in sex crimes or you work in homicide or whatever it is your ability to communicate with people. And I've heard you mention it many times about building rapport with people. Mm-hmm. And that's music to my ears because I was a negotiator for over 10 years and I love that. And so was Rick. Mm-hmm. So you probably, I know my colleagues, sometimes they get a little bit irritated because I'm in there just chopping it up with people for a while before we get down to the the details of things. This is the lesson that
because I said, I love that where you're sitting down and like you said, you're chopping it up with someone, because I can't tell you how many interviews I've listened to where their rapport building, it feels like a checkbox where it's very clear that they're just asking a couple questions and then they go, all right, let's get into it. And that's not how you build rapport with someone. It's got to be genuine.
Yeah, that's right. And I'll give credit to my dad for one piece of advice that he had told me before I became a cop, and it is basically make sure that your badge is the same size it was the day they issued it to you, not 5 sizes too big. And that's translated into treating people right. Okay. Now, cops, unfortunately, we're like toys in a Cracker Jacks box, and you don't ever know what you're going to get. And you don't know what kind of call that cop just came from. And yes, they do hire not nice people from time to time. So if you're listening to this and you're a cop, don't be a D-bag, be freaking nice to people. I mean, seriously. And if you're nice to people, then you would be surprised and amazed at what people will tell you. And you're gonna get a lot further in this world. So I love that. So what's your future? What's the future for Bianca? Because and maybe this is what you want to do. I mean, maybe this is what you want to continue to do as long as you can. But do you have any other goals that you're kind of looking at?
It's hard to say, because if you would have asked me whenever I got into law enforcement, I wouldn't even thought that working sex crimes with a Frenchie canine partner, I mean, I never would have even known that was even a possibility. I love this, though. Luna is actually about to sit for her certification for her therapy dog exam. And so I'm really happy with that. I love what I'm doing. I really like coming to work every day. These are the types of cases that I get up in the morning, and I always say this, I hope nothing bad ever happens to someone, but if it does, I want to be the one that takes the call. I want to be the one that takes the call for it and takes the report. So I'm really happy where I am right now. I know at some point, I'll move somewhere else, but for right now, I have no idea what's next. I just know that I love doing what I am. So, and she's the perfect canine partner. So.
Wait a second. Why would you move somewhere else? Why would that happen?
Oh, I mean, like in terms for the future, like moving to a different unit or promoting or anything like that. So,
well, I was going to say, I mean, if you're interested in moving, Tulsa's we're hiring, so we're always hiring.
No, I think it's cold there. Is it snowing over there?
Yeah, I didn't mention that. Actually, I should have mentioned that. Thanks for bringing that up. We've got like 5 inches of snow outside. We have like 5 inches of snow outside, and I can't really complain too much because it's the good kind of snow. It's the snow that you can actually, it's the good stuff. It's not like just ice. But we got like 5 inches of snow. It's the first snow of the year, and it's beautiful. I'll give it that. But you don't know what snow is. So, are you from Florida? You probably have never seen it.
I'm from South Florida, so Orlando's very cold for me. We had a cold front, and it went down to 35, and that's I think the coldest it's been since I've lived in Orlando. But that it was too cold for me. I had jackets, blankets. Luna wouldn't go outside.
Well, you probably thought you were going to die. I mean, you really probably did. I tell you, here in Oklahoma, it gets downright cold at times, and it got so cold here a few years back that it actually broke one of my windows. It put a crack in one of my windows, and it was like I think it was 20 below zero, and it was one of the coldest it's ever been here, and it's not like that, thank God, most of the time. But we do get cool. We get tornadoes. Do you get tornadoes there?
With bad storms.
Okay, yeah, we get tornadoes here, which are kind of cool. Actually, I don't want one rolling through my neighborhood, but they're pretty interesting. So, all right, and you guys are hiring at the University of Central Florida for cops, I'm sure everybody is in this country. And so, how does somebody go about if they want to? Is there a college requirement to be a police officer there or not?
There's not. It's a high school requirement. I think college is preferred, but high school diploma or GED.
And so if somebody wants to kind of follow in your footsteps and maybe go down this path, they can start with your department. And then is there a minimum requirement of working the streets before they're able to go to a specialty unit?
Yeah, the minimum requirement is 2 years. Okay. And then it goes from there. One of the things that I absolutely loved about UCF is, of course, they take seniority into account, but they also look at productivity too. So whenever I got hired, I was on patrol for about 2.5 years whenever a position opened up in CID. But the position that was opening was specifically to work sex crimes cases and to be mentored by Rick Salcido. And that was the whole reason I came here. And like I said, I was working with him while I was on patrol. He was cross-training me. I was asking him, do you have another case for me? Do you have another case for me? And so when a position opened up, I wasn't very senior, but they looked at my productivity. I did a lot of stuff on the road. While I was on night shift, I did as many DUIs as I could find. So they knew that I was a worker, and they knew that I was taking the initiative to work with Rick from that time. And so, I always think that you should reward the people that have been here for a long time too, but you've got to reward your workers. And so that's one of the things I loved about UCF. So 2-year minimum, but if you put in that work, it's not, it flies by.
Yeah, for sure. 2 years
and
is nothing.
It feels possible to get out too. Like I've got friends at other agencies that they've been, trying, but sometimes seniority is all they look at. So there's like a light at the end of the tunnel.
I always like to hear how different agencies do it. So it sounds like I know Rick loves it there. And every time I've seen him, I'm like, so you're working at the college and you came from Orlando PD. I mean, what's that like? It's got to be a huge transition. He's like, man, I love it. I love it. It's just awesome. So basically, that's good. I'm really, really fascinated that. I'm just impressed with what you've done in your short career, and I think that's great. There was another thing that we had talked about that was in your bio. What was that called? It's something about the mentoring program. What is that about? Because I'm interested to know what I might.
That's actually really cool. So a different officer that I work with had started that maybe 5-6 years ago. And the idea is whenever someone brand new comes in and they are in field training, a lot of the times they're responding to things or seeing things for the very first time that they've never dealt with or seen before. So there's one part of it where you want to be an officer, you want to go to all of these calls, but then the second part of it is actually going to them. And sometimes there's a shock factor that comes with it. And so we know law enforcement suicides are, way up in the country, and, it's an ongoing issue. So a lot of departments are looking at, well, what can we do to start changing, mental health whenever it comes to officers. And so one of the officers that I work with, she did a great job putting this together, where she said, look, we shouldn't be taking these new officers that are in field training and saying, you know what, deal with it. All of us did, you'll figure it out as you go along. So instead, what they do is whenever someone comes in, they try to mentor them with they try to pair them with a senior officer that can be a mentor. And basically, if they have a call or anything going on and they have a question, all of a sudden they have like a built-in buddy that they can say, hey, this came up, or I struggled with this, or, I went to this call, or, for example, if I'm paired with someone and I see that they had a crazy call where it's probably the first time they had something like that, I can then call them up and talk to them about it. So it's kind of a support system. We want to train these new officers, but we want them to be supported, because in the long run, if law enforcement's hurting, you said it, everyone's hiring right now. So if we can help these people and mentor them to grow and succeed in field training, it's better for the department for retention. It's better for them. So everyone wins.
Yeah.
So,
it's
cool.
kind of like, it almost sounds a little bit like critical incidents response team. And that's what I'm actually a member of that. And I've been on that for 18 or 19 years. And it's what that is that's a program that's there for police officers. Let's say, for instance, they got involved in an officer-involved shooting, or they've seen something horrific on a call, et cetera, and you're just kind of there for them. And to be on that team, you would have had to have experienced something along the lines of critical incident, and I've had a number of those. So that's kind of like that. But then again, I like yours because it's more of a, hey, I had this, hey, I had this one call, would I, whatever. And I like the mentor name. I like that name, and I like where you're going with that. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's interesting. I know one of the things that I'm going to take partial credit for this, but I'd actually sent it up our chain to, I'm one of those type of people too, that I like to think up. I like to steal ideas from other people. And I also like to implement things. And one of the ideas that I came up with is, it's kind of like, well, it's kind of maybe not really, but, where we have people that are like interns, that they can do an internship in a specialty unit. And it gives us a chance to see if this person's just going to sit around and be on their phone all day long, or they're actually going to be interested in what's going on, kind of deal. So I like it. I think you guys are really, I think it's good. I'll tell you what, I'm going to mention something to our special victims unit, also known as the sex crimes unit. Little known fact, actually, that's probably the only other area that I would be interested in working, and that's sex crimes. I think it's fascinating. I think it's just it's just an interesting world. And when you're dealing with people that are committing those types of crimes, it's just a fascinating world to me. So listen, I can't thank you enough. I think that you're great, and I want you to tell Rick we're already at the end. Can you believe it? And so I know it goes by so quick. You've told us a lot of really interesting things, and I really do thank you for being here. And I think it's great. If you are at a police department and you want to know more about this, feel free to reach out to me, and you can email me, or you can find me. I mean, I'm not hard to find. And basically, I'll get you in touch with her so you can maybe see how they came about doing what they were doing, and make it happen. I will remind people real quick. Anything else that you want to say, Bianca?
If anyone wants to start a therapy dog program for their agency, they can reach out to me, and I'll share everything that we have. We had to put together SOPs, had to put together a policy, building the dog, training the dog, all the certifications, all of that. We kind of figured it out as we went along, and things like that. And it doesn't need to be that hard. So whether it's a sex crimes question, or you want to start a therapy dog for your agency or program, happy to help.
Yeah, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. I know we're about ready to cut this off, Amanda. I'll probably take it about another 30 seconds and we'll be done. But basically, there's no sense in reinventing the wheel. Call her up. They probably have policies and procedures that you can just go ahead and copy and stick your agency's name on it and go from there. Great idea. Thank you for being here, Bianca. I think you're awesome. I really do. I'm a fan of yours, and from here on, you're going to be my friend. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, I know that I'd been advertising about speaking in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I'll be speaking at the United States Marshals Museum January the 31st. Tickets are on sale. They originally were at 250 people. They sold out super quick. But so I called them up and I said, listen, I've got people wanting tickets. So they've went ahead and rented an additional 50 chairs. So you may be able, if you were one of those people that were considering going to this, check it out. And we'll probably have 300 people there that are going to be, actually, they're going to be a lot smarter than they were when they walked in the door, I can promise you. And they're going to be entertained and they're going to have a lot of fun. Thank you, everybody, for being here each and every week. Thank you. I'm glad we didn't have any problems. And next week, we're going to have Mike Elam again, and we're going to dissect the ambush that happened to Buford Pusser, where he was shot and his wife was killed in McNairy County, Tennessee. It's going to be a great episode. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody. Take us out, Amanda.